What is up, everyone? Dan the Card Man back again. Today we're talking through WWE Impeccable and a missing 1 of 1. We're going to quickly touch on what this means from a QC perspective out of Panini, but more importantly, we're going to talk through, what this means and what it highlights for the whole Backyard Breaks Hotbox, accusations, allegations, all this sort of stuff, because there's a few things here that speak to, a real possibility on one of the scenarios that I raised that some of, you haters out there, quickly dismiss, and I don't think you should have. And we've got some proof now as to why you probably shouldn't have dismissed that sort of stuff so quickly. So stay tuned at the end for that. But essentially what we're talking through today is this box that was busted by Mike Bev Celtics. I think he busted a whole case of WWE Impeccable. You're going to see in a second, you'll probably see it as he's flipping through the cards, that there's a placeholder card put into this pack that was meant to be replaced by the manufacturer with a 1 of 1. That doesn't state what the 1 of 1 is, but it was meant to be replaced. Now, this speaks to, obviously, some pretty large QC issues out of Panini, because this is a huge mistake their manufacturer made, right? It's something that their control environment, their reviews, their QC very, very clearly missed. Now, these kinds of placeholder cards, they're nothing new for the hobby. I believe I first saw these maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I want to say. I think it was the first one that I saw. But back then, you would sort of let it slide because the product was a lot more affordable. The problem is that even from a retail perspective, right, if you can get this box at retail, it's still extremely expensive. So the fact that something like this can still slip through the cracks in today's day and age is, utterly, ridiculous in my opinion, let alone what this product actually costs from a market value perspective. Now, apologies if you can hear my daughter crying in the background. I'll do my best to get that out, but this is just not good enough in any way, shape or form. And you can see it here now. He's basically flipping the card, and that's what it is. Now, this is the card in question. It says Loop 9, 0.20, Box 3, 1 of 1. So the manufacturer, obviously, I believe this is I'm fairly certain this is a machine-packed product. Yet there's elements obviously in there that are hand-packed. So this card was cut or meant to be replaced. But let's just say it was either or, whether it was machine-packed or hand-packed, this is still a huge QC issue and mistake on their part. And like I've said many times in the past, these companies these days that are meant to be the pillars, of the trading card hobby, have been so quick to charge us like money up here when they used to charge us down here, right? Try and capitalize on this hype, on this boom. Yet they've kept their risk tolerances, quite low, in the sense that, it doesn't mean that they've got the same appetite for a really low level of risk. They haven't accounted for the fact that they're pumping through more product, that they're pumping through more expensive items now. They just haven't accounted for those things. So the mistakes have still kept it at the level that they would have expected, in the past when product was a lot cheaper, but now product's so much more expensive that they can't get away with doing that. But someone like Panini doesn't really care, because like we touched on when Fanatics, first announced they bought the rights, they do not care. They're just going to print things to death while they can because the market's lapping it up. The average person does not care when they see something like this. They'll see it and they'll just still go buy the product. Like, nobody's really complaining about this sort of stuff. Mike Bev Celtics is just very, very lucky he opened it up on camera, because if he didn't, yes, Panini knows what their placeholder cards look like. But again, it would have been very, very hard for him to get traction. So all in all, we've had no response from Panini yet, as far as I'm aware. It's been 2 days since he's hit, if I remember correctly, or maybe 36 hours. Time zone difference between Australia and America makes it hard to judge. But this is just, not good enough. And it's not going to be the last time we see something like this. The fact that things like this can still slip into the wild speaks to an incredibly poor control environment out of these manufacturers and out of Panini. I've said that like many, many times now, but this almost proves that point. This is not something that should slip into the wild when product costs the amount of money it does today. This is unacceptable. They need to reimburse the guy. They need to make this right, so let's hope that they do. The thing I wanted to touch on, though, is probably a little bit more important than that, and what this might mean for the whole Backyard Break situation. Now, some of you out there, when I raised one of my scenarios was, okay, somebody at the manufacturer is going to know where the hot boxes are, where the hits are. They might be able to flag a box as being a hot box, and that's how they could get it to somebody that they want to, right? That's how they can funnel hot boxes to people. And so many people said, well, Daniel, you're an idiot, because Panini has no idea where the boxes end up. They have no idea where the cards end up. Well, like, come on, guys. This thing very clearly here tells you that they do know where cards are meant to be. Maybe not the exact card, but they do know where a card is meant to be. They do know which boxes contain the 1 of 1s, because they very clearly said box 3 here. Because they're tracking loops and whatever this number means, that tells me that they're tracking elements, right? So they can sort of understand where certain cards are going to end up. If somebody out at the manufacturer, whether this was machine packed or hand packed, had to take that 1 of 1 and replace it with this placeholder card, they're going to know which box it's going to end up in. So let's just say that's the LaMelo logo man, right? Or that is, some other, I can't think of a player now, some other hot player like Cade Cunningham, 1 of 1 Black Prism, as an example. If they know that card's getting cut, they have to replace that 1 of 1 by hand, because we just assume that this works the same for all Panini products. 1 of 1s have placeholders that get replaced. If they know they have to replace a card, how hard do you think it's going to be for that person to flow where those cards are going from then onwards? They know which box it's going in. I'm assuming these other numbers can let them know which case it's going in. Okay, then did they flag that case somehow? Like, you can understand where this sort of stuff is going. So when the people are out there saying, there's no way that Panini tracks this sort of stuff, there's no way somebody at the manufacturer could, get an understanding of where things are going, you're wrong. This proves that you're wrong. This is a placeholder card. Somebody was meant to be replacing that by hand. So what do you think is happening, right? Don't dismiss things so quickly just because they seem far-fetched. This goes to what I said the other day. We as individuals, it's okay to ask these kinds of questions. So many people were hating, saying, you're making all these accusations to what Backyard Breaks. I wasn't making accusations to anyone. I'm putting plausible situations out there to try and understand the situation, to try and figure out what's happening, right? This is a key thing that could have occurred within that process. That gives a bit more, substance to those kinds of, scenarios that I painted. Yes, somebody at the manufacturer does know where cards are going based on that placeholder. So don't be so quick to judge next time or hate things. This doesn't prove anything with regard to that situation, but it just speaks to that being, maybe a bit stronger possibility of happening. Somebody out at the manufacturer, being able to identify where hotboxes are to then shift them to the people that they need them to. Again, I'm not saying it's happening, but this is why you need to be open-minded when it comes to this sort of stuff, and don't be so blinded by, your affection for these people that you're breaking with, or your affection for these influencers. Like, there's nothing wrong with asking these kinds of questions. And talk about timing. We're talking about manufacturing mistakes and tracking a week ago. And then what happens a couple of days later? This. Like, sometimes, the hobby, does funny things and sort of speaks for itself. And this is, I think this is one of those situations where, this just reiterates that point. Yeah, maybe nothing's going to come from this whole Backyard Break situation, but something like this, speaks to the fact that things can happen out of the manufacturer. So let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Let me know if you've seen this pop up, yourself. I'll just go back to my screen. Let me know if you've seen anything like this pop up, in the past, because I think, this is pretty shocking. The fact that I'll put the link to this video down in the description below as well, so you can watch the whole thing yourself. Like, yes, the pack does leave camera, but he opens up on camera. Like, we've seen them before in the past from Panini as well. It's just not good enough from a QC perspective. This stuff is just, like, I use the word disgusting a lot, but I would be very pissed off if I paid the kind of money that these boxes cost as a customer, and then you get something like that. And then Panini, they haven't even responded. They've got people like Lamine James chasing them. It's like, come on, guys. Also, like I said, I don't want to repeat myself now, but you've got a placeholder card here. Manufacturers very clearly know where cards are meant to be. Don't say they aren't, right? Don't be so quick to defend people and comment on things when, like, I'm not saying you the viewers, but the logic is, when people are out there saying these things, when you yourself don't actually know what's happening. Don't come up and try and, defend everyone from a mountaintop and then say this is what's happening, when in fact you've got no idea, right? We saw some of those people jump onto Sports Card Radio's live stream, right? So quick to defend without actually understanding the situation themselves. Don't tell me things are happening at the manufacturer when you don't know yourselves. When I comment on how things work from a control environment perspective, because I'm an auditor, like I've spoken about in the past, and I say things like this could be happening from a manufacturer, again, this just proves my point, right? And it's easy for me to see because I do this for a living. But this now gives some comfort to you out there as a viewer that maybe doesn't understand how the manufacturing process works. You've now got evidence that there's a placeholder here that needed to be replaced by somebody manually, you would imagine. So the fact that this is there then helps, understand the questions and raise some more questions around some of these other processes and, matters that we've discussed in the past on this channel. Now, I know I'm rambling. I'll stop there. Thanks for watching. I hope it did make sense. Please share your thoughts on these down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.